Welcome to our deep dive into the Gupta Empire,
Okay.
a period often called India's Golden Age. Um, we're going to explore how they managed to build such a successful and sprawling empire. And it really all comes down to their administration.
Right.
We're talking taxes, legal systems, and all the nitty-gritty details that just kept things running smoothly.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at just how innovative they were.
It is fascinating to see how the Guptas didn't just kind of invent their systems from scratch.
Yeah.
They inherited a legacy from earlier kingdoms called Mahajanapadas.
Okay.
These kingdoms were already experimenting with governing larger territories and dealing with,
Yeah.
complex social structures.
So it was like they were handed this
Exactly.
rough blueprint,
Yeah.
and they were able to turn it into this
Yeah,
intricate, well-oiled machine.
exactly. And one of the keys to their success was their understanding of Dharma.
Oh,
This wasn't just some abstract spiritual concept.
right.
The Guptas actually wove Dharma into the very fabric of their governance. Yeah.
Using it as a practical guide for everything from tax collection to the legal system.
Okay. Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
So how did this concept of Dharma,
Hmm.
this sense of duty and cosmic order,
Yeah.
actually play out in their administrative structure?
Well, for the Guptas,
Yeah.
a well-functioning society
Yeah.
was one where everyone understood their role and their responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
It was all about maintaining balance and harmony.
Right.
This idea permeated their entire system.
So it wasn't just about
Right.
keeping things organized. It
No.
was about creating a society that aligned with their
Precisely.
beliefs.
And this is where their tax system gets really interesting.
Okay.
They understood that for the empire to thrive,
Yeah.
they needed a stable source of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But they also believed that taxation should be fair and just
Yeah.
in line with Dharma.
So they weren't just out to squeeze as much as they could from...
It was much more nuanced than that.
Okay.
They had a sophisticated understanding of land tenure,
Yep.
this idea of who owned what land and how it was used.
Right.
And they developed systems for assessing and collecting revenue from agricultural land,
Okay.
which was the backbone of their economy.
Mhm.
Think of it as a carefully calibrated system designed to ensure both the prosperity of the empire and the well-being of its people.
So they were trying to find that sweet spot between
Exactly.
filling the treasury and not overburdening.
They understood that a prosperous populace meant a prosperous empire.
Okay.
And this commitment to fairness wasn't limited to their tax system.
Right.
It also extended to their legal system,
Okay.
which was deeply rooted in existing Indian traditions.
So they weren't just imposing arbitrary laws. They were drawing upon a pre-existing framework that people already understood and respected.
Precisely.
Okay.
Kings were expected to uphold justice and order as part of their dharma.
Mm-hmm.
This meant that they weren't above the law.
Right.
Their legitimacy was tied to how well they embodied these ideals of fairness and righteousness.
So it wasn't just about brute force. Absolutely.
They had to rule with wisdom and compassion to maintain their power.
And it wasn't all theoretical.
Yeah.
Kings would actively consult with religious scholars and advisors to ensure their decisions were aligned with Dharma.
Okay.
This created a system where the law was seen as a reflection of a higher moral order, not just the whims of the ruler.
It sounds like a very different approach to leadership than
Uh-huh.
what we see in many empires throughout history.
Hmm.
This focus on dharma,
Yeah,
on duty and righteousness, seems to have been deeply ingrained in their entire system.
absolutely.
But it wasn't just about the king.
Great. Oh, absolutely.
Weren't there other key players in this?
The king may have been at the top,
Intricate.
but the Guptas understood the importance of having a skilled and dedicated team to keep the empire running smoothly.
Yeah.
And this is where their bureaucracy comes into play.
Okay.
They had a whole hierarchy of officials, each with specific responsibilities, who played crucial roles in managing everything from tax collection to maintaining law and order across their vast territories.
So let's delve into that.
Yeah.
Who were these key players, and how did their roles contribute to the Gupta's success?
Okay, let's take a closer look at some of these individuals.
Absolutely. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Gupta Empire. We've been exploring how their unique approach to governance, deeply rooted in the concept of Dharma, shaped their administrative systems.
It's fascinating how they didn't just conquer and rule, but actually built a system that aligned with their core beliefs. It's like they were trying to create a society that embodied those ideals of balance and righteousness.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And to achieve that, They needed a robust bureaucracy.
Yeah.
They had a highly organized hierarchy of officials, each with specific responsibilities, all working together to manage the vast and complex machinery of the empire.
So it wasn't just about the king making all the decisions. They had this whole network of skilled individuals who kept the wheels turning.
Wow.
What were some of the key positions in this Gupta bureaucracy? Well, one of the most important positions was the Amatya, a high-ranking official who acted as the king's chief advisor. Think of it as the king's right hand involved in everything from policy making to overseeing the day-to-day administration.
So a real jack of all trades, but hopefully a master of quite a few as well. It sounds like a demanding job. What kind of qualities would someone need to hold such a position?
They would need to be incredibly intelligent, well-versed in statecraft, and possess a deep understanding of Dharma. Remember, this was a system built on the idea of moral order and righteous conduct. The Amatya wasn't just an administrator, they were a guardian of those principles.
That makes sense. You'd want someone who could not only manage the complexities of running an empire, but also advise the king on how to rule in accordance with those higher ideals.
Were there any other positions that were particularly crucial to the smooth running of the empire?
Well, absolutely. Another key player was the Sandhivigrahika, a minister who handled foreign affairs. This role involved diplomacy, negotiating treaties, and forming alliances with other kingdoms. Ah, the diplomat. Always walking that tightrope between maintaining peaceful relations and protecting the empire's interests. Given the Guptas were expanding their empire, this position must have been vital.
It was. The Guptas understood that maintaining good relations with their neighbors was essential for stability and prosperity. They couldn't afford to be fighting wars on all fronts.
Right. You don't want to stretch your resources too thin or create unnecessary enemies. So we've got the chief advisor and the diplomat. What about managing those all-important taxes? Who handled that?
That critical role fell to the Sannidhata, the treasurer or finance minister. This official was responsible for collecting revenue, managing the treasury, and overseeing government expenditures. They had to ensure that the empire had the resources to fund everything from infrastructure projects to maintaining a strong military.
The bean counters of the Gupta Empire, they probably weren't invited to many parties, but their work was absolutely essential. After all, no money, no empire, right?
Precisely. And the Guptas were smart enough to understand that. They knew that a well-managed treasury was the key to their success. But it wasn't just about collecting taxes. They also understood the importance of investing in infrastructure, promoting trade, and creating conditions for economic growth. Their goal was to create a system where everyone benefited.
So they were taking a long-term view, realizing that a prosperous populace would ultimately lead to a stronger and more stable empire.
Exactly. They weren't just focused on short-term gains. They were laying the foundation for a lasting legacy of prosperity and stability.
Okay, so we've covered some of the key players at the top, but this was a vast empire. How did they actually administer those far-flung territories?
They had a system of provincial governors who oversaw different regions of the empire, and beneath them were district officials responsible for maintaining order, collecting taxes, and resolving local disputes.
So a kind of pyramid structure with authority flowing down from the king all the way to those local communities. But how do they ensure that those local officials weren't just abusing their power?
That's a great question, and it highlights another fascinating aspect of their system. They had a network of spies and informants who reported back to the central government on the activities of those local officials.
Whoa, a bit of an ancient Indian intelligence agency. That sounds like a very effective, if somewhat big brother-ish way to keep those officials on their toes.
It was, and it wasn't just about keeping an eye on things. They also relied on a system of checks and balances where different officials had overlapping jurisdictions. This prevented any one person from becoming too powerful and created a system of accountability.
So a bit like separating powers within a government, creating a system that's resistant to corruption and abuse. Clever.
It was. And it's a testament to the Gupta's understanding of human nature and their ability to design systems that could effectively manage a vast and diverse empire. But even with the most carefully crafted system, there are always challenges, right?
Of course. No empire, no matter how well run, is immune to the forces of history. What were some of the challenges that the Guptas faced in administering their empire?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Gupta Empire.
We've been uncovering the secrets of their administrative system, how they managed to create such a stable and prosperous empire. It's like they were playing a high-stakes game of civilization building and winning on every level.
They were remarkably successful, but you're right, no empire, no matter how sophisticated its systems, is ever truly immune to challenges.
Right.
One of the biggest hurdles the Guptas faced was simply the sheer size of their empire.
Yeah.
Communicating across such vast distances, especially back then, was no easy feat.
The tyranny of distance. No instant messaging or emails in those days.
Right.
So how did they keep things running smoothly when messages could take weeks or even months to travel?
They had to rely on a complex network of messengers and couriers traveling by foot or horseback to relay information between the central government and those distant provinces.
I can imagine that led to its own set of problems. Delays, miscommunications, maybe even the occasional game of telephone gone wrong.
Exactly. And this is where those provincial governors we talked about earlier played a crucial role. They had to exercise a lot of autonomy making decisions on the ground without waiting for instructions from the capital.
So it was like having mini kings ruling over those different regions.
In a way, yes.
Correct.
And while this system allowed for a degree of flexibility and responsiveness to local conditions, it also created opportunities for things to go astray.
Sure.
It wasn't always easy to maintain control and ensure that those governors were always acting in the best interests of the empire.
That makes sense. The further you are from the central authority, the more likely those rules are to bend a bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like they were constantly walking a tightrope between centralized control and allowing for regional autonomy.
They were, and they weren't just grappling with administrative challenges. They also had to manage the complexities of a diverse and dynamic population.
Right.
Remember, the Gupta Empire encompassed people from different cultures, speaking different languages, and following different religions. Maintaining unity and cohesion across such a vast and varied territory was a constant balancing act.
So how did they do it? What were their strategies for creating a sense of shared identity and preventing those differences from pulling the empire apart?
Well, one of their key strategies was promoting religious tolerance.
Okay.
The Guptas, while themselves Hindus, patronized other faiths like Buddhism and Jainism. This fostered a sense of inclusivity and helped to prevent religious conflicts.
So instead of imposing a single belief system, they allowed for a diversity of religious expression. That seems pretty forward-thinking for the time.
It was. And this approach was not just about maintaining peace, it also reflected their worldview. The Guptas saw the universe as a harmonious interplay of different forces, and this idea extended to their governance.
Okay.
They understood that a society could be strong and vibrant even with a diversity of beliefs.
That's fascinating. It's like their approach to governance was a reflection of their broader understanding of the cosmos.
Exactly. And this inclusivity wasn't limited to religion. They also promoted Sanskrit as a common language of administration and scholarship. This helped to bridge cultural divides and create a shared intellectual space across the empire.
It's like they were creating a common ground, a shared language that transcended those regional differences. But even with these strategies, there were still internal tensions and external pressures that eventually led to the decline of the empire, right?
Yes, unfortunately, no empire lasts forever. The Guptas eventually faced a number of challenges that weakened their hold on power. One factor was internal strife and succession disputes. As the empire grew, those ambitious princes we talked about earlier started vying for power, leading to instability and conflict.
Those classic power struggles. It seems like every dynasty eventually succumbs to them. It's like a Shakespearean drama playing out on a historical stage.
It often is, and as those internal divisions grew, the Guptas also faced growing external threats. They were confronted with invasions from the Huns, a nomadic group from Central Asia who put immense pressure on their borders.
The Huns, not exactly known for their peaceful diplomacy.
They weren't, and these invasions, coupled with those internal weaknesses, proved to be a fatal combination. The Gupta Empire, once so vast and powerful, gradually fragmented and eventually collapsed.
It's a bit melancholy, isn't it? Watching this grand civilization with its intricate systems and innovative ideas ultimately succumb to those forces of history.
It is. But their legacy lives on. Their contributions to art, literature, science, and governance had a profound impact on India and continue to inspire and influence us today.
It's like those ripples spreading outward long after the stone has been dropped in the water. And even though their empire may have faded, their achievements are still a testament to the heights human civilization can reach.
They are. The Guptas show us that even in the ancient world, there were societies capable of incredible innovation, sophistication, and cultural brilliance. Their story reminds us that history isn't just about dates and names, it's about understanding the enduring power of human ingenuity and the enduring legacy of those who came before us.
Well said. It's been an incredible journey exploring the Gupta Empire. We've uncovered the intricacies of their administrative system, delved into their unique approach to governance, and witnessed both their triumphs and their eventual decline. And while their empire may be a thing of the past, their story continues to resonate with us today, offering valuable lessons about leadership innovation and the enduring power of human civilization.
Indeed. And it's a reminder that even in the face of challenges and setbacks, the human spirit can achieve remarkable things. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the Gupta Empire. It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating chapter of history with you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the past. We'll see you on our next deep dive adventure.